Hi everybody, welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. A little while back I made a video called How to Transpose a Song to Any Key using Roman numeral analysis. And I had a good follow-up question from Leo. And Leo asked about how to do Roman numeral analysis in a little bit more difficult of a song than the one that we did in that first video, which was I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. In that video we talked about how that song is in B flat, and wise men. So we go from the 1 chord to the 5 chord. Say, now we've got a G minor chord, and I talked about how that's the 6 chord or the minor 6 chord. And basically how you can take whatever song that you're working on and assign Roman numerals to every chord so that if somebody wants to sing it in another key, say the key of G, all you have to do is start in G, and if you're pretty familiar with your major scales, you should be able to just look at those Roman numerals and go from there and play the song in any key, or at least any pretty easy key. But Leo wanted to know, well there's a place in that first song, I Can't Help Falling in Love with You, where there's a G7 chord. And if you know the notes of G7, G, B, D, and F, you'll know that the B natural is not in the key of B flat, of the B flat major scale. So what I said in the video was that that G major chord or G7 chord is actually the 5 of the 2 chords. So G7 is the 5 of C minor. That helps us to relate back to the key that we're in and to discover why a chord works the way that it does and how it functions in the song. But Leo wanted to know, why do we have to call it the 5 of 2? Why can't we just call it like an uppercase 6 with a 7 by it? Right, like a Roman numeral 6 with a little 7 by it, which would be, that would be right. Like you could B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G. It's the 6th degree, and he wanted to know why you couldn't just call it 6. Why do you have to call it 5 of something? The thing I'd like to tell Leo today is that there are a few levels to Roman numeral analysis. We don't have to dive that deep all the time. We can do kind of a superficial level and knock this out a little faster than we might otherwise. I'd like to use a song that has a few more little devices that go out of the key, so I'd like to use the Beatles' Oh Darling today. Oh darling, please believe me, I'll never do you no harm. Up until now, all of these chords are in the key because we're in the key of A for this song. We have 1. I'd like to actually show you like the lead sheet that I'm reading of this from, and I just printed it out from the iReal Pro app, which is an app that I'm not endorsed by the iReal team, but I always recommend this app because it's very, very helpful. You'll have access to a lead sheet like this one of just about every song you can think of that's in the pop or jazz or blues or rock genre. So I hope to answer Leo's question today, the question of, can't we just put a capital 6 with a 7? The answer is yes, Leo. Let's dive into it. All right, so one of the first things that we can do if we have a song that's in the key of A, like this one, is we can just write all of the notes in the A major scale. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp. Then we can label every chord major or minor or whatever it happens to be if we build the triads of the major scale. So if we have an A major chord, we have the notes A, C sharp, and E. We can call that the 1 chord. B, D, F sharp, that's a minor chord. So we have a little 2. C sharp, E, and G sharp, that's another minor chord. So we have a little 3, right? If it was major, if this wasn't an E, if this was an E sharp, then we could call it a capital 3, but it's not. So we call it a minor 3 or little I's when we do the Roman numeral analysis. When we do D, we've got D, F sharp, and A. So that's the 4 chord, and it's a major chord. 5 chord, and then for this one we have F sharp and A and C sharp. That's a minor 6. And here we have a G sharp, and then a B, and then a D. And that's actually a diminished chord. So we write the little 7 with a little circle. G sharp diminished, and we won't see that chord happen. It doesn't happen anywhere. But every time we've got one of these kind of chords, we've already got the answer for us if we want to do the Roman numeral analysis, right? So we've got an A major chord to begin with. We can just write a 1 right here. I'll write underneath every chord. So A is the major 1 chord. E7, well, E is the 5, right? It's a major chord, but since there's a 7 on it, we'll just write the 7 like that. F sharp minor, is that one of our chords here? Yes, it is, F sharp minor. So we'll write just like that, the little 6. D is one of the chords, it's number 4. So already, say we want to play in the key of C. I can just play a C major chord, and then I think, what's my 5-7? That's the next one. Well, that's a G7. What's the 6, the minor 6 chord in the key of C, and it's an A minor? And what's the 4 chord in the key of C, and it's an F major? So we could already just go for it and start singing this in another key. Oh, darling, please believe me, right? We could do it in C, we could do it in any key that we want, as long as we're familiar with what these numerals mean in other keys. That's why one of the first things you need to do when you start playing music by ear is to learn all of your major scales. I do have a video about that, how to play major scales. So that it's just going to help you a ton. Like, I went pretty slowly writing this out, but I could do this in my sleep, So we all need to be able to do this kind of thing in our sleep, to think of a major scale, to know the names of the notes in the scale, and to understand their relationships to each other. All right, so we're going to go on. We've got a B minor 7 chord here. B minor, that's a 2, and we can just add a 7. Right, now we've got a 2 minor 7 chord. Now here we've got E9. 9 is just another way of saying E7. It just adds one more note to the equation. E, G sharp, B, D, which same as what we had here, but with the 9, we had one more note to the equation, and it's an F sharp. So we can do the exact same thing. We can just write a 9 here. And then we've got the same thing for this bar, and the same kind of chords here. We can just real quick write in what we already know. Right? Now it repeats, and we go to the bridge. When we get to the bridge, we have a strong modulation to the 4 chord, so the bridge starts out in the key of D. And that can happen too. Oh, I need to write this. So the second ending, we have 1, and we have 4, 1, and then we actually have, okay, this is great. I'm so glad I didn't skip the second ending, because right here, what I want to tell Leo today is that we can absolutely just go ahead and write 1-7. Even though that isn't one of our flavors of chords up there, like the G is not in the key of A, right? We've got a G sharp, and if we have an A7 chord, that's a A, C sharp, E, and G natural. It's not in the key, but for our purposes, just writing Roman numerals like this with the purpose of being able to transpose to any other key, it's going to be much easier for us to read 1-7 than it would be if I did a strict Roman numeral analysis of function like you would learn to do in music school or in theory class. And the function of this A7, I mean, we see it in the next bar. It's to go to D, or the 4 chord. So A7 leads very nicely to D. So if we were going to analyze the function, that would be, we could do that, but it would be like on another level. So we can just understand for ourselves that this chord is the 5 of the 4 chord. So if we were gonna write it out, if I was going to like analyze this, and not just write it in Roman numerals, if I was doing a functional analysis, I would actually write the 5-7 of 4, like that. But it's a little bit hard to see that and to think really quickly what to do if you're just transposing on the fly. So I think it's totally fine to just write that it's the 1-7. Okay, so I think that already answers Leo's question, but I'm going to keep going like this. So now we have the 4 chord, right? D. We've got this really strong D chord. But now we take another chord that's totally out of the key. It's an F. It's not in the key. There's an F sharp, right? So F sharp is the 6th degree. All we need to do is write, this is a major chord, so we can write a major 6, but we have to write a flat in front of it. So it's the flat 6 major chord. All right, so you take that 6th degree of the A major scale, which is F sharp, and you're going to flat it and you're going to play it as a major chord. If we were going to analyze this another way, we would probably say that this flat 6 chord borrows from the minor, or like an A minor, but we don't have to talk about that today, because my purpose is to show you how to transpose songs into any key. So I'm not going to focus on the function today. Back to A. Here we go again, the 1-7. Here we've got another one that's not in the key. This is just B major. So B minor is in the key. All we have to do is write a capital 2. All right, that way we know to play B major. Same thing here. We've got a 5. We've got the flat 6 again. Major. 5. And if we have something like an E augmented chord, all we have to do is write the 5 and a plus. All right, we can carry that augmented over into whatever key we're doing this in. And then all of this is the same until we get to this B flat 7 chord. It's this neighbor tone to end the song. That's kind of a common way to end the song. And so all we have to do here is we think about the B flat. There's a B in the key of A, so we're going to actually call it the flat 2 and write it in an uppercase and give it a 7. And we actually end on the 7 chord of the tonic, which is like a blues thing to do. All of a sudden it kind of becomes, well, it's a bluesy song anyway, isn't it? It's got all sorts of 7th chords. All right, so let's think about it. Let's try to put this in a difficult key. Let's think about, why don't we do F sharp major? All right, so, I didn't write the first chord, did I? We've got the 5 with a plus. All right, so in the key of F sharp major, that's going to be a C sharp 7 chord, or a C sharp augmented chord. Oh, darling. We have an F sharp major chord is our 1. Please. And then we're going to go to the 5 chord, so I'm going to go to the 5 of F sharp 7. We've got a C sharp 7. Please believe me. Then we're going to move to D sharp minor. I'll never do you no harm. What's the 4 chord in the key of F sharp? It's a B. Right, now we're going to go to the 2 chord, which is G sharp minor 7. Believe me when I tell you. Now C sharp 7 or C sharp 9. I'll never do you no harm. Let's go on to the bridge. So we're going to do an F sharp 7 chord right here on this 1-7. When you told me, we go to the 4 chord, that's a B major chord. You didn't. Now we got to go to the 6, right? But the flat 6. So that's a little bit tricky to think of. You got to do your major scale. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp. All right, so D sharp, we're going to flat it to a D and then play a major chord. Right? All right, so F sharp. When you told me, that's a B chord. Now here we go with D. You didn't need me anymore. Back to 1. Well, you know I nearly broke down and cried. Now we do the 2 major. It's going to be an A flat chord. When you told me you didn't need me anymore. Here comes the 5. It's a C sharp. Well, you know I nearly. Then we go back to the D. Broke down and died or cried. I can't ever remember. And we do a C sharp augmented. And then we go back. Just like the beginning, but let's do the end. I'll never do you no harm. So we're here at F sharp. Harm. Walk up to the 4 chord. I didn't write it, did I? 1. Okay, and then we're going to take the 2, which should be G sharp, but we're going to flat it. So it's G natural and a 7 chord. Oh, yeah. I hope hope that makes sense. And I hope that it answers Leo's question. So we don't have to be total music snobs all the time when we're analyzing. We don't have to say the function of every single chord. This one borrows from the parallel minor, or this is the 5 of 2, or the 5 of the minor 6. Or we can, and it's important to understand that kind of stuff. But if you're just using Roman numeral analysis to help you transpose quickly, this is a great way to do it. I know in that first video I talked about the Nashville number system. That's a good way to do it too. I'm not so familiar with that system, and I did go to music school, so I feel like anybody who has a little bit of a background with music theory would probably be able to think better doing it this way, just using the Roman numerals, big and small, and adding a 7 or adding a plus or wherever you need to. We can just kind of remember that there are always layers to our analysis. It's just an easy thing to do that makes my job easy if I need to transpose. But if I wanted to get into a deeper layer of analysis, then I could talk about the function of every chord and do a more difficult analysis, kind of like we did in that first video. But we don't have to do that all the time, especially not in a song that borrows from other keys and steps outside the key and uses neighbor tones and all of these kinds of devices like the Beatles used in Oh Darling. Leo, I hope that did it for you. I hope you've got it now and that you can just step into any tune that you want to transpose and go for it. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget, you can get an Aimee Nolte Music t-shirt or sweatshirt or water bottle or all manner of Aimee Nolte Music merch at my website. I'll put the card above my head right up there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Aimee Nolte Music.